All right, you guys, welcome. This is Dawn Weatherwax, the proud owner of Sports Nutrition to Go and Dawn Weatherwax's Sports Nutrition Academy. And welcome to What to Eat and Supplement for holiday training for swimmers. And the goal is just to understand what to eat, how much, when, to maximize this training period to surpass their opposition. Just a little bit of homework, or not homework, but for those who don't know me, I've had my own business for over 20 plus years. My first actually athlete that came in my doors over 20 years ago was a swimmer from St. X. I am from Cincinnati, Ohio. And 80% of my population that I work with is under the age of 18, and most of the time athletes or student athletes. And then I do work with people who are collegiate or pro or Olympians and people all over the world. And I do work with people who are just interested in their own health. I am a registered dietitian, a licensed dietitian, a sports dietitian. I am an athletic trainer, and I am certified in strength and conditioning. I do write for Swimming World. I have also write sometimes for ASCA and NISCA, and have 3 books. I have worked with gobs of swimming programs, and I definitely understand this sport pretty a lot in detail. What is our big takeaway today is knowing what, how much, and when to eat to take away the guesswork and to surpass your opposition. Okay, so we want to maximize that. Sorry, I just want to make sure one more thing I got going on here. All right. So what are the problems that I see in this sport is basically the one big thing is not eating enough, poor recovery, too tired or sore, getting sick, run down, and not maximizing the purpose of holiday training. Because at my office, I have a thing called muscle sound, and it measures the fuel in the muscle. And you have to understand that if you don't have enough fuel in the muscle, it does not matter how much effort they give if there's not enough fuel in the muscle. The fuel is technically carbohydrates, but the thing with carbohydrates is it also makes a difference if you're getting enough healthy fats, if you're getting enough energy or fuel, and if you're getting enough protein. It is not just about eating, and it's not just about eating enough. It's the right mix at the right times to maximize getting the fuel in the muscle. The other thing that makes this age group much different than most is they're growing humans, and females are in puberty until age 18, and males are in puberty until 22 to 24. And both genders, bone continues to fill in until about age 25 to 30. And growing takes fuel out of the muscle. And that's one thing that most people don't think about or talk about. And then swimming requires an enormous amount of energy. And if there's that fuel in the muscle, it's like gas. So if you're going to Florida versus California, or, like Florida versus California, depending on wherever you live, and you could go vice versa, whatever distance, one is going to take somebody longer than the other. And that's going to take more fuel the more you go or the more you do. So that's holiday training, that's swimming in general, or if you have other sports that some of your athletes play. And then how fast you're going to go to that same distance. Are you going to go 50 miles per hour? Or are you going to go 80 miles per hour? If you go faster, you're going to pull more fuel out of the muscle. Okay, you're going to use more gas. Okay, so what happens is if you're not fueling enough before you even start holiday training, I'm sorry to tell you, but when that starts to go low, they will go slower. That's just what has to happen because you can't convert fat fast enough into a carb, and it doesn't work very well that way. And so think of fat in a car like your oil, and then protein, I think of like air in the tires. So it doesn't like to provide energy for that source. It's not good for that, and it's not being used in that time frame for that energy. All right, so if they start off low fueled, and now we have a double practice and then another practice, and you start hearing they're very tired, they're very fatigued, they're more apt to get sick, they're more apt to get injured. And the whole purpose of this holiday training is to kind of break you down, but you want to minimize the breakdown, refuel, get ready for the next training. Yes, they're still going to be tired, but they're going to have a much better holiday training. It's not going to be as hard. They will recover better, get ready for the next day and do it again. But a lot of athletes don't even come close to maximizing this time frame because they're not eating enough going into the training. And then you throw in doubles or even more, and they have a hard time just eating enough to match the demands of what's going on. So please understand, this is a huge piece of the holiday training, is you've got to find a way to fuel enough to minimize getting sick, or minimize the soreness, recover quickly, and get ready for the next day. Now, this young lady that I have here to my left, it's just one of the ladies that I worked with when she was 12, very tired and fatigued when she came to see me. She was eating 1,800 units of fuel, but we found out that she needed closer to 25 to 28 at age 12. And no joke, by eating the right amount of fuel at the right time, around 85% of the time, she got best times from the time we started in at least one, or personal best in all of her swim meets for 9 months in a row. Not all of her events, but she had several personal bests at every swim meet from where we went, and excelled dramatically. All right, so what are our solutions, right? We got to know how much we need to fuel and what they need. We need to know what and when to eat, and then which nutrients and supplements to focus on to optimize. This young man I've been fortunate to work with, this is Grant House. He is from Ohio, the winningest male at high school athlete in Ohio. That's saying a lot because he broke that record in 2016. We are now into 2020. He just graduated from Arizona State last summer. He leaves a legacy wherever he goes, and I was fortunate to work with him and still working with him. Be looking for him, gives a really good chance of going to the Olympics. And again, just he needs around 5,000 or 45 to 5,500 units of fuel still to this day. He's around 6'5", 6'6". When we started working together, he was 6'3", 6'4", weighing around 150 to 160 total weight. His body fat was around 20%. He now is 205 to 210, 7% body fat, and he put over 55 pounds of lean weight from his freshman year in high school up until approximately his sophomore year in college. So that is a lot of lean weight to put on. But he desperately needed that to do what he's doing today. And he just had another personal best at one of these past swim meets in the last month. So he's still cranking out best times. He's really one, if you want your athletes to follow, he's a really good one to follow. All right, so we also have to know how much to calculate, so there's no more guessing, ensuring optimal recovery. You want to optimize each practice and minimize getting sick. Now, this young lady, Emma is a Disney story because she came to see me in July of her senior year, wanting just to rock it out because she didn't think she was fast enough for the schools that she was applying for. She was applying to 3 schools. She had lots of lean weight, but she wasn't eating the right things at the right times. And she ended up winning state in Division I in Ohio. And we are very fast here. And she is swimming for the college of her dreams since she was 5. That's how that could work. And that was just in July of her senior year. And that was in March of her senior year. That's how much time she took off in that frame when applying the nutrition. All right, so let's get to the nitty gritty. How much do they need? Well, this is all about holiday training. And therefore, you really want to know the basis of what they need. Now, in my academy, we walk you through that in the what to gain, how much fuel do they need and calculate it. But we use MyPlate, and you can just calculate the fuel needs of your athlete. And that's the minimum that they need because it is not really geared for athletes, especially athletes like swimmers. Because how many athletes do you know, if you have a 7 or 8 or 9-year-old, or even a little bit older, that is going to be able to do something cardio for 90 minutes or 60 minutes solid in water. Water also is cooler than your body temperature. And so if you're 98 degrees and the water is cooler than that, then you're like actually displacing heat out of your body into the water. It is also another sport where you have no floor. You are the floor. Your core, your shoulder from hips is your core, is that capability. So that is your floor. And yeah, that's why dry land is so important, why they integrate it, because you need a strong shoulder to waist to be able to sustain or have great swimming to maximize. Now, I'm really sorry. Hold on 1 second here. All right, I'm really sorry. Hold on 1 second. I'm sorry about that. And so here's the thing. In my academy, we have what to calculate your fuel needs, and we use MyPlate. You need to know what they need to go, like what they should be doing daily, because for holiday, we have to add on to the top of that number. If they're not even coming close to that, most athletes struggle to eat enough to maximize holiday training. The average female in swimming needs roughly 2,200 to 3,500 units of fuel a day. Again, fuel for those, that's calories. Food is a calorie. Calorie is heat. Heat is energy. Okay, energy is fuel. So I call it fuel. I call it fuel units. How much fuel units do they need? Nobody in swimming, even at age 7, needs less than 2,000 units of fuel, because they are growing individuals. This is in a pretty hard sport. Maybe they're doing other sports. No female in high school needs less than 2,000 units of fuel. The average female swimmer in high school is around 25 to 2,800 units. I've had female athletes that need 3,000 to 35. And at one point, depending on where they are with their growth, if they have a lot of growing to do, I've had female swimmers who were eating 35 to 4,500 units of fuel. Females that are around 10, 11, or 12, when they have a lot of growing and are swimming, it requires a lot of fuel to grow. But once they get through most of that growth, they're just not usually going to burn as much, okay? Now, males average 22 to 5,000, and males usually, because they're doing a majority of their growth the 8th and 9th grade, they're still growing, and then they have their body is ready to put on muscle after that, it really can go from 22 to 5,000. But my average male in high school needs at least 3,000 to 3,500 units of fuel. It's a very special situation if it's less than that. And again, as parents, if you have anybody that's consuming less than that, or they need less than that for some reason, that is a consult with somebody who understands the sport, because something is not correct if they are consuming less than that. It is not okay, and it's not ideal. And if it needs to be less than that, you need to seek help with that. And usually for most guys, they're not going to do well if it's under 3,000 in high school. All right. Now, the other method that you could use is called chronometer. We use that in our academy as well. And a chronometer, you can calculate their fuel needs because it starts at age 12. And then you can calculate or like log what they're actually consuming. Some athletes really do well with this. They like data, they like knowledge, and it is a positive experience. Others, this is a red flag, where maybe it's not a good experience. I think that I always just ask the parent if the athlete can handle that. And then if they're in high school or older, they usually, if you ask them, they'll tell you if it's a positive thing for them or not. But to get the answers, what does your athlete need daily? You need to have an idea of what they need. And then you got to have an idea of what they're actually consuming. And you can do that for them. And that's what I highly recommend for your future to do that. But we use MyPlate when it comes to just general calculations in my academy. And then we use Chronometer that will log your food intake more thoroughly. Know what they're consuming and know what they need. We actually use the metabolism device called MedGym at my office. We will measure how much they burn at rest. At rest means what they burn if they just slept for 24-hour period. And that just gives a more accurate way to do it, because then we know exactly what their body is burning at that time. Now, the average swimmer in holiday training needs an additional 700 to 1,500 fuel units. Again, fuel units is calories. Food is a calorie. Calorie is heat. Heat is energy, and energy is fuel. So we call it fuel. We're going to fuel. What's our fuel units? And the average is 700 to extra 1,500 units of fuel. If you're going into it and they're already not eating enough, it's going to be pretty hard for you to get them to where they really need to go. But it's important to go, well, this is where we're at, and at least we need to add an additional 700 to 1,500 units of fuel. The ones that usually need 1,500 extra is one of my swim clubs here is doing doubles already. So Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of this week, they've already done, they have on their schedule 7 to 9 all swimming, and then they're going back from 4 to 6 all swimming. That's going to require a lot more fuel. And how many times a week are they doing that? You always want to take the average of the week and then add extra versus trying to eat amount one day and another day. You need the average of the week. It works very well because they do train many days, and there are 7 days in a week. So it's best just to get the average or the mean for the week and then add extra on those days that they're doing more. All right, so this is a lot of writing here. And I tried to share with you how I think when I'm working with people. And I wanted to show you what an extra 700 fuel units or 1,500 fuel units would look like if you're trying to add this for your own athlete. And it is very important not just to eat. It is better to eat something than nothing at all. That is true. Okay. It's better to eat something than nothing at all. If we have picky eaters, you just have to go with it and do the best you can and slowly work on goals to make it better. But if we're just eating because we know we're burning a lot and we're not being selective with our food choices, because I have the muscle sound that measures the fuel in the muscle, if somebody just eats a lot of their carbs from ice cream, Dairy Queen, the Blizzard, I'm just going to have a ice cream shake at the end of the night. Unfortunately, added sugar, especially when it's not around activity, does not like to go into the muscle. And it does make a difference of quality. So you flip that and you make a smoothie that has a lot of whole fruit in it. And that is natural sugar, and that natural sugar actually will like to get into the muscle. That's how it's different. The other is saturated fat. A lot of ice cream is high in saturated fat. We want to keep our saturated fat to 10% or less a day. But if they get 5,000 calories and they get roughly 1 gram of saturated fat per 100 calories, they still get a lot of saturated fat. But I'm going to tell you something. If you just do a lot of saturated fat, the body doesn't know what to do with all of that. And after 10%, it likes to increase inflammation, and it does not help them. So doing an ice cream shake at night, high in saturated fat and added sugar, is not the same as you convert it to a yummy smoothie with lots of fruit. The protein could be from milk or Fairlife milk or unsweetened soy milk. And then you put healthy fats in it, like nuts, seeds, nut butters. You could do flax, chia, and stuff like that. And that is something the body will really be receptive of, and it does make a difference on the whole impact. We want to decrease inflammation. We want to increase the fuel in the muscle. And so it's not just about eating or just eating a lot, but Again, we have some picky eaters out there that struggle with texture, that struggle with sometimes just eating enough. I will tell you, as parents, if you have somebody that's on the lower end of the weight chart and they're like at 5 or 10% on the weight chart, those are the ones you have to really, really be mindful of, because if they a lot of times are not hungry, they say they're not hungry. And I'm going, well, if you're on the 5% of the weight chart, then you're not fueling enough. And so they will slow down growth, because the body has to use the fuel to grow out of the muscle, and it has to use it to swim and do activity. And if you're not going to stop the activity, then the growing piece has to slow down. And so you cannot make yourself taller. A lot of people are like, how can I get my athlete taller than they're supposed to? No, you can't do that. The growth plates are set. And the only way around that is, I think, you break bones and then the bone fills in. I'm not sure if I would advise that. And then, but you can be shorter than what you're supposed to be, because there is some evidence, especially if you have athletes on focus medicine, that it makes them not hungry, and they could be 2 inches shorter than they're supposed to be, because eventually the growth plates fill in before they can get all that growth. Now, some people eat a lot. They're just not eating enough of the right things. So if you look here, I just try to show you how, you know, the servings, if you went by food groups, that complex carbs are grains, that's oatmeal, starchy vegetables like potatoes, corn, beans, like everything but green beans. Green beans are more like it's just a non-starchy vegetable. That you get 2 to 3 servings of those. But if it was roughly 1,500 extra fuel units, you're adding another 400 to 500. Vegetables, those are like your lettuce and your carrots and your broccoli and things like that. It's 0 to 2 or 0 to 3. Dairy does vary depending on what you use for dairy. Some people use like Greek yogurt and Chobani drinkable yogurts and Oikos Pros for their protein, because Oikos Pro has 20 grams of protein. That's roughly 3 proteins, because I go with 1 protein is 7 grams of protein. And so you can see there's a little bit of an increase. Why is there 0 to 3? Is just because some people use that as their protein source versus, you know, eggs is a protein source, but regular milk is a protein and a carb. All right, then you got lean proteins. Lean proteins are just, I like to keep them under 10% saturated fat or the whole day. And those can go from 0 to 4 or 0 to 5. And again, because that trades out with dairy. And then we want to keep our healthy fats up. We want to get, this is where people don't understand. A lot of us do not eat enough healthy fat. Healthy fat is liquid at room temperature. Nuts, seeds, peanut butter. Seed butter, peanut butter, almond butter, cashew butter, soy butter. It's chia, it's flax, it's hemp seed, it's avocados, it's olive oil, it's olives, it's avocado oil. Primal Kitchen is a great brand if you like mayos, because it's 100% avocado oil and organic, and that tends to be then a healthy fat. It is liquid at room temperature. It loves to burn and it loves to decrease inflammation, and it's great for a whole body. And then the carbs can get into the muscle. Just eating more carbs, the body has to burn those, and we're still not getting enough carbs in the muscle. That's where the healthy fat comes in. Saturated fat, that's what a lot of people like, because anything fried, that's saturated fat. Not air fried, but fried in a vat of oil. So if you go to Chick-fil-A, because it's very popular, anything fried is roughly 50% saturated fat, because you have to cook it in there for a certain amount of time over a very hot degree of oil. And that takes that healthy fat and it denatures it. And then it's solid at room temperature. So you don't really count that as a healthy fat. Now, if you're doing an air fryer or roasting something, that's not quite the same as actually a vat of oil. So anything fried like that is 50% saturated fat, and therefore doesn't count as a healthy fat anymore. And saturated fat, that's what I was talking about, loves to increase inflammation, and the body does not really like it that much. But you see the fats, that's 3 to 6 servings. What is a serving? It's roughly 5 grams. 2 tablespoons of peanut butter. So if you put your 2 thumbs together, it's roughly a tablespoon. Or if you think of 1/4 of a cup, so half of a cup is roughly the size of a tennis ball or a baseball. So 1/4 of a cup is roughly like 10 almonds. That is, so if you get about 10 or 20 almonds, that's a fourth of a cup, and that's 3 healthy fats. It's roughly 150 to 200 calories or 200 fuel units. 1 tablespoon of olive oil is roughly 120 to 150 fuel units. And that's how you can secretly get extra fuel in without increasing volume. If they like spaghetti, you can put the olive oil on the noodles or in the marinara sauce. Avocado oil is the way to go if you're trying to put a little bit in a smoothie, because sometimes olive oil can have a smell and a taste, and then you're gonna notice that. But if you're making eggs, when you put a breakfast burrito together, then in their breakfast burrito, you could take a tablespoon of the avocado or olive oil on their breakfast burrito, not in the pan, on their actual eggs or burrito. And then that's how they can get that extra healthy fat in. And that's how that will help them fuel more. And those are tricks for anybody. And then you just want enough fiber, and you want to keep the added sugar to 30 grams or less a day, not including activity. So if you have a morning practice and you do a sports drink, if it's at 5 in the morning and they really struggle, sometimes the sports drink, it does get into the muscle because it takes about 30 to 45 minutes for that carb to get into the muscle. It's liquid for hydration. It has electrolytes, which is mainly salt. And if it's a true sports drink, and those carbs will get into the muscle. It's not Kool-Aid, but so if you have a finicky stomach, this is something that could help. And especially during holiday training, this is where sometimes I'm like, yeah, just do sports drinks at every practice, because you just can't get enough fuel in, and that's going to help you get enough fuel. But I don't recommend that most of the time, but during holiday training, there are a lot of exceptions because you just need so much more fuel. Now, what I did here is I also wanted to show you what this looks like. And I did a 700 units of fuel protein shake, a smoothie, and I did 1,000, because you could always double these or increase it. So if you look at the difference, 1 cup of frozen mangoes, and then if you notice, or 1 cup of frozen pineapple, 1 medium banana, and then, spinach with Fairlife milk is mainly protein with very few carbs. And then, or you could do 2 cups of regular milk, and then you put 1 tablespoon of chia, 1 tablespoon of flax. You could put hemp, you could put cashews in it, you could put peanuts in that, you could put almonds in that, you could put sunflower seeds in that, you could put avocado in that, you could put nut butters in there, pending. But if you do the regular milk, then you don't need as much fruit because there's carbs in the milk. Now, that's a trick. If you're somebody needs more calories, you could keep that the same and do regular milk, and that's going to give you your protein and more carbs. And then if you look how you do the bottom, I just showed you how it'd be just a little bit different in the fruit and the milk. So the milk just gives it more energy. And here's the thing, it doesn't have to stop at the door. This could be, if they're eating it for breakfast, they could sip on it. Now, this also can make great headway when you're coming home and they're tired and they want to take a nap. So, they could drink this down pretty quickly, or just say we have to have this done before the end of the day, because this is our extra 7 to 1,000 fuel points that we need. And now we got it because we have everything else that we normally do. And now we could just add this throughout the day and be fine. All right, so I did another post-recovery idea. Now that smoothie could be for it could be for breakfast, it could be for a snack, it could be for an evening snack. It could take place of a meal, especially when we're challenged of eating enough. And then you have post-recovery. Now, post-recovery, you definitely need to eat this post-recovery meal or snack within 30 to 45 minutes after these swim practices or lifting. And why? Because the muscle pulls out the carbs and the protein. Protein does not like to be used as energy, but it pulls out the carbs, and then the body wants to soak up it back in. But you're not hungry. You didn't bring it. You'll do it later. Unfortunately, your body will not absorb all this back in. And it needs to be at least 20 grams of protein and 60 grams of carbs for these times. And if they're younger and they weigh less than 100 pounds, then I say just do half of that, at least 10 grams of protein and 30 grams of carbs is minimum. Can you have more? Yes. Can you have more protein? Yes. But here's the thing. Once you hit the protein need, people make a mistake when they even do smoothies is they throw in a Greek yogurt, and then they're throwing in protein powder, and then they're doing milk. And I'm like, wait a second, I have way too much protein. Protein likes to repair, recover, but that's not the fuel. Now you got to give it the carbs and the whole fruits and the healthy fats, because that's what's going to fuel the muscle. Protein is kind of to repair, recover, and rebuild. So don't go haywire on the protein. You need more healthy fats and whole fruits, and it usually tastes pretty good. Now, for this post-recovery idea, again, this could be at night, but this could also work for morning practice, is I have this thing called the Cheerios Team Challenge in my academy. Why do I have that? Because we're always looking for fun ways to have a team meal. This started from a coach that said, hey, what can I ask my parents to drop off for a morning practice for breakfast? And I'm going, what could I do? And then how can we make this more fun? Is they can all bring Cheerios. So everybody could bring their favorite, but we want to keep the added sugar to 8 grams or less. So I threw a little twist in there. So they can have 1.5 cups of regular Cheerios has 1 gram of added sugar. And all the other flavors of Cheerios, Honey Nut is the most popular, has 12 grams of added sugar in 1 cup. And remember, regular has 1 gram of sugar in 1.5 cups. So what can we do? You can fill your bowl with 90% the regular Cheerios, and then you can dust it with the lemon is actually really good, and you can dust it with your favorite sugary cereal, and then have something in there, and then the milk is your protein, and that is a very easy way to get your 20 grams of protein, because 20 ounces of milk is 20 grams of protein, and you can get your carbs in there, because 2 cups of regular Cheerios is 60 grams of carbs, or 2 cups or 2.5 cups of regular Cheerios with 1/2 cup of Honey Nut or flavored. Now, let's say you don't like Cheerios, no big deal. Just remember, you could put the base as any healthy cereal, and then you dust it with the ones that you like, if they like sugary cereal. And then the protein is that. Do you have to eat it together? No, they could do a banana and regular Cheerios and some raisins, and it could be a trail mix. And then they drink the milk, or they do a Chobani drinkable yogurt, because I'm sitting right here, so I have my display. I love this thing because it's 20 grams of protein, 15 grams of carbs, no added sugar, monk fruit and stevia, and very yummy and tasty. So you could just do that and then have something in a baggie with like a trail mix to eat it, or have it all separate. So there's a lot of ways that you can make that fun. So at hashtag Cheerios Team Challenge, you see we just went 1.5 cups of regular Cheerios, 1/2 cup of any of the fun stuff, Honey Nut, Very Berry, they even have peanut butter, 1 banana, or 3/4 cup berries. We did 2 cups of Fairlife milk. Fairlife milk has way more protein. So instead of 8 grams of protein per 1 cup, it has 12 grams of protein per 1 cup, and way less carbs. So we're getting the carb from the fruit and the cereal, and that will have 20 grams of protein or more. Or you could pair it with an Oikos Pro or the Chobani Complete or a protein shake. You can do eggs, you can do just chicken. And then we put peanut butter. I had one athlete who just naturally puts 3 tablespoons of peanut butter on top of the Cheerios and just stirs it in, because he really likes it that way. Or you could do seeds. And then if you just do, that is an error. I see 13 cups of regular Cheerios. That is not correct. That is 3 cups of regular Cheerios and 1 cup of the lemon or vanilla or multi. And then you could do golden raisins, yummy, yummy, or dried fruits. And that dried fruits are a trick to get way more carbs and not the volume. And again, with milk, Fairlife milk or Oikos Pro with some healthy fats. And again, you could always just eat them separately. Another idea for snack idea, or at any other time, is just like, if you remember those protein balls, I gave you a new flair of protein balls here. It was a lemon coconut protein where you had 1/2 cup of cashew butter, but remember, you can always sub out and do almond butter or peanut butter, 1/4 cup of unsweetened shredded coconut, 1/4 cup of vanilla protein powder. Brands I like are Garden of Life. I like Clean Athlete. I like Thorn. Anyone that has validation, specifically NSF Sports certified, because that means that they test each lot and what's in it is in it, and in that quantity and in that amount and in that form. and it will not have any illegal contaminants in it. And then I said 1 tablespoon of honey and 1/4 of a cup of chopped dried apricots. So that is definitely a different recipe there, but you can just do peanut butter, honey, and some oats, and you could do that. And then you pair that up with a protein source, okay? And that half of that recipe is 700 if you pair that with protein. And then you can do 3/4 of the recipe. And, you know, that's not hard to eat if you like that kind of stuff, and it freezes very well. Again, these could be used for many times because of the fuel units. You could use them for breakfast, any one of these. You could use cereal. You could use a smoothie. You could use protein balls. You could do trail mixes, and that would fit when they really struggle eating enough. So, you know, the snacks that are working great are even a tortilla with lots of seeds or nut butters and drizzle with honey or maple syrup and put lots of fresh fruit on that and just roll it up. Or your smoothies, because you can really load it up with a lot of healthy fats and whole fruits. And you can even put raw oatmeal in that. If people don't like chunks and you're struggling, you could actually do almond flour, because all it is almonds grinded up. You could do oat flour, because that's all it is oatmeal grinded up. And you could do that with your Vitamix or Ninja before you make it. And then there you go. I even have one with Greek yogurt with tahini and other healthy fats. That's a different take. I love Kodiak products because they have a higher protein intake, and you can do mini muffins if you'd like and put stuff in that as well. All right. So, you know, in the Academy, you can pick out your own menu to match what you need to guide, and those are in there. But I wanted to walk out because not everybody here is in my Academy. So what you need to do is calculate what they're currently eating. What do they currently need? But in the sense, if you're just going out this holiday training going, that's just too much, Dawn. Not going to happen. What do I just need to do right now? Because it's starting or it's going to start, is just please make sure you're upping their fuel at least another 700 to 1,500 units. And if you have a male in high school, they usually need closer to the 1,500. If you have, and usually the national groups or the higher groups are usually in high school. They're not usually going to have the little ones work out that as much, but if it's more, then it's an extra 700. So, and females, they still, I find on average, need an extra 700 at this time, maybe an extra 1,000. Now, what else do you pay attention to? So we got to eat enough. Showed you ways of how to get that extra 5 to 1,500 in. And then what else can help them minimize the soreness or during this time, or just stay healthy? Because many go into it not eating enough, therefore their muscles are drained, and then if somebody sneezes on them, and then they're going to be around their friends even more, they're more apt to get sick or just not feel that great. So we want to minimize that. So things that you could possibly add from a supplementation standpoint is vitamin C. Vitamin C, I always feel like it's kind of like putting a shield around them. I like everybody standing around them and protecting them with their shields, and we're raising the shields up because we want to minimize getting sick. So I tend to recommend to my athletes around this time another like 500 to 1,000 milligrams of vitamin C a day. I have a tendency to do 500 in the morning and 500 at night. I am actually doing a different kind of protocol for some of my athletes this year, so we're trying that out. And if they weigh under 100 pounds, you just cut that in half, 250 milligrams to 500. There, you can buy vitamin C. It's very abundant. Emergency is just pricey. If that's what you got, great. But just note for in the future, it's best just to buy some vitamin C, because it's way cheaper and it can last you for 3 months or a whole year versus a week supply of emergency or airborne. And then I like it through the training and 2 or 3 days after the training, because I just want to keep that defense systems up. I also love it around major competitions because they're around a lot of people. And if you notice when you travel, if it's not from your own little swim squad, you are picking up little bugs of other people in that area that you might not have a defense system. And now you're bringing it back and you're being exposed. So that just helps with that. The other thing you might incorporate is tart cherry. Tart cherry does help with decreased soreness, and it does work inside the muscles, inside the cell. At this time frame, it also, tart cherry can help with sleep because it does increase melatonin, but it's weird. You can do it during the day. You're not going to be sleepy, but tart cherry has a melatonin effect. If I like tart cherry, 250 to 500 milligrams. You can take up to 1,000 milligrams of tart cherry a day. Please do not do this on a daily basis because there is some research that says they're not sure if that's the best way to use tart cherry. But if you do have somebody who has sleeping issues and they're little, or you want to try it, it tends to be very effective. But here's the kicker. We have 90% of our melatonin receptors are actually in our gut, and only 10% of our melatonin receptors are in our brain. So what I tell people is make sure you take the tart cherry before you take that evening snack. Or say you're getting home late and it's 9 o'clock and you're going to have a meal, or you really want to get the tart cherry in first, and then you can eat right away. Because if it goes in first, then that's where it's really going to help get absorbed and really help with the sleep factor. It works really good in competitions because they get really anxious at night and have a hard time sleeping. And again, they're just going full force. So I love it during swim meets. But again, it always works better on an empty stomach. And if you've used melatonin yourself or your kids, it's quality of the product and it's on an empty stomach. And sometimes it even works better like 90 minutes before they go to bed. But it's the empty stomach that works way, way better to help them. But it also helps with soreness. You could do a dose in the morning and a dose at night if you'd like, or just do it at night. Can you use tart cherries? Yes, but it's very random on how much you're actually getting of the nutrient that you need. And it would be like 50 to 200 tart cherries that they would need to eat. You can do it in concentrate, 1 to 2 tablespoons each time. Concentrate, you usually find, if it's in your grocery store, where they sell the naked and Bolt Health smoothies, the juices, they're in the produce section usually. So you have to look for it, but it's usually there. Tart cherry juice, it's 8 to 16 ounces, but you have to make sure it's 100% tart cherry. There's a Cherry Bundy, if I said it right, and sometimes some brands of theirs is 100% tart cherry, and then some of their other brands are tart cherry and apple juice or apples. So you got to look at the label to make sure it's tart cherries, not sweet, and it could help with soreness. And a lot of my athletes notice a difference, especially during heavy trainings and if they struggle with sleep as well. Specific brands, we all have links in my full script in my academy. So if you're part of my academy, you just go into the course, and I've already posted in there, and then you get a direct link into full script with the brands. But Ladder has a protein powder with tart cherry, and it's NSF Sport certified. That's by LeBron James and Arnold Schwarzenegger. There is a chew called Human, HUMAN, capitalized N, so human with an extra N, and it's capitalized at the end. And that's NSF Sport certified. Again, what is NSF Sport certified is that they test every lot and test that it says if it has this much in it, it does, and that there's no illegal contaminants in it. And Human has a chew, and each chew is 250 milligrams. So that tends to work well, and it doesn't have any added sugar. So that's unique of a gummy or a chew. And this brand, I don't even know, OIAM, it's not from the United States, but it does have a tart cherry that's NSF Sport certified. Can you use other tart cherry products? Of course, but I'm usually particular because I do work with Olympians that get drug tested. So, and they test for everything at the Olympic level. College, it's a little bit different, but I want to make sure if it's working that we're using what says scientifically could work. And a new one, this is my first time I've ever talked about this because I'm always evolving and using the science, and quercetin is the next one that you could possibly use. Remember, tart cherry, you do not use all the time. Vitamin C at 1,000 milligrams, please, and don't go high levels like that all the time. But these are times where you can go this level. And then quercetin is from capers and apples and cranberries and blueberries and dark grapes and kale and broccoli and onions and dill and buckwheat. You can see our fruits and vegetables are insanely important for our overall health. but it does help with inflammation. And again, 1,000 milligrams is kind of the magic. So 500 to 1,000 milligrams of quercetin a day. And you could do half of it in the morning and half of it around bedtime. This isn't the same. It doesn't have a melatonin effect. So it really doesn't matter right now that I'm aware of if you take it on an empty stomach. And or a timing issue that hasn't been brought up yet. And it's usually in capsules or powders. And it's usually 1/4 of a teaspoon, or, you know, like a tiny teaspoon, or an 1/8 or 1/4 of a teaspoon is what usually is in a capsule. And that's a possibility. And that's supposed to help with inflammation and help your immune system. But again, they do not recommend that all the time. So around heavy trainings or competitions or that type of thing. Obviously, they have to sleep, right? If they don't get enough sleep during this time, they're going to break down. Most swimmers will sleep, but I need you to understand 9 to 11 hours, but sometimes because they have a really early morning that they can nap. But make sure they have the post-recovery nutrition first before they nap. As long as they get the nap on the same day, it works. So if they need 11 to 12 hours of sleep, or 10 to 11 hours of sleep, and because the morning practice was so early, the minute the practice is over, it gets over at 9, you got to make sure you have a really good post-recovery meal, and then they could go to sleep, and that's 2 to 3 hours of sleep or 2 hours. Then that still will work that day. But if they sleep and then they stay up later because they can't fall asleep, that's when it's not a positive. And you can't make up sleep on the weekend. So the research says it has to be that day. And that's why naps really work well. And at swim meets, they can work well. But whoops, I love whoops. Whoops are great ways to know how their quality of sleep, how much sleep they might need to recover. And it really gives personal data on your quality. Because some of the sleep experts, they just want to, make sure we're saying that it's not just always about just get 8 hours of sleep. It's really about, you really need to get quality sleep. But when they're growing, that's when they grow, is when they sleep. And at this age group, under 18, or if they're males between 22 and 24 swimming that or a sport, it's a lot of growth, and that takes a lot of sleep to do that. And then this is just a quick guide on fueling those muscles, of just a quick breakfast that I put together. That's in my academy, but must eat within 30 to 45 minutes. And then we had 3 eggs. We had cheese or vegan cheese, and bread, and then we have olive oil, or depending on how they mixed and matched that, and then some fruit and some water. And you definitely need to make sure there's enough salt in all of that, because the salt helps bring the water into the muscle cell. So sometimes if you don't have a lot of sodium in your food, then you need to put an electrolyte, like Noon tablets, LMNT. You could do Gator Lights. Liquid IV has bees added to it, but it does have a higher sodium content. Please note that Body Armor is not high in sodium, and Prime is not high in sodium. So they're not true sports drinks. So you need to add sodium to them if you're using it for that. So hopefully what you've learned is you got to have the basis. You got to know how much they need. But for the basis of today for holiday training, it's usually an extra 700 to 1,500. And then I showed you ways of how to add that 700 to 1,500 in, and the value of how that would make an impact. So again, knowing what to eat and supplement, we got to fuel, we got to hydrate, we got to sleep. And then possibly vitamin C, possibly tart cherry, and possibly quercetin during this time frame. You guys, I really appreciate your time, and you're coming to hear me talk today. I would love to say thank you, and then love to answer it for any questions that you might have at this time. So does anybody have any specific questions that they would like answered? And I believe there is a message below, so I need to just check here. Well, it says below, but all right. Just do this again, see what I see. All right. Does anybody have any questions that they would like to ask me? Okay, so we have our first question. On days when it's hard for a swimmer to get in all their fuel, but usually eat healthy, is it okay to eat a Pop-Tart? Yes. So is it okay to eat a Pop-Tart? So the question is, on days when it's hard for a swimmer to get in all their fuel, but usually eat healthy, it's okay to eat a Pop-Tart. Yes. So my theory is this. I don't believe in perfection. Even my Olympic swimmers, we are at 90% most of the time. And I believe in 1 or 2 meals a week that are just whatever you'd like. And I believe in one small thing a day that you might like. So that could be Pop-Tarts. That could be Skittles. That could be a bag of chips that are not baked. That's fine. But if it's just that you eat healthy, but you don't get enough fuel, this is one worth just showing you. You could eat protein balls. You could do a smoothie. You could do crackers like Triscuits, and then you put extra like, cheese or some meat on top of it and some nuts and dried fruit. Like nuts, a fourth of a cup of nuts is 200 units of fuel, and one Pop-Tart is 200. So Lara bars are fruit with nuts in them, and they do have a little one with chocolate. Kind nut bars, a little bit of honey, with some drizzled chocolate, or you don't have to get the ones with chocolate. That would be a way better choice than a Pop-Tart, but you're getting that sweet flavor. So it's fine to do it. If that's your thing you like, then that's fine. Okay. What are the recommended snacks for swim meets? It's the same concept. Swim meets, what snacks? Well, I'm just going to tell you this. If they need 3,000 fuel units on a daily, then they need 3,000 fuel units on a swim meet. If you're usually getting 700 units of fuel on a day that they go off to school, then they need 700 units of fuel on a day they go off to do a swim meet. Swimming is one of those things that they're not going to be doing it for 2 hours at one time. So you need to kind of mimic what you would do. So therefore, if you have breakfast, you have a good breakfast. And any of those options I showed you, the Cheerios, the smoothie, the protein balls, the protein, you could do an egg sandwich with a banana, with avocado, and, with some fruit. You could throw some vegetables in there. So in between 8 and 12, most kids, if they get a good breakfast, they just nibble on something a little bit. They don't need a lot between 8 and 12, because you guys, what is the biggest thing to go into a swim meet, right? It's the same thing as holiday training. If you go into a swim meet and there's like 20% fuel in the muscle, and you show up on a day of a swim meet and there's 20% fuel in the muscle, I'm sorry to tell you, but you will not consume enough to get it to 100%. You won't. You can't. And so you're just trying to hang on by the hair of your chinny chin to just try not to let that, like, you keep topping it off. So you're not going to optimize your swim meet. And if some athletes do well, I always say they could do better. But usually day 2 or day 3, it's going to be a struggle. So what you need to do the most for your swim meet is what you do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. You want to go to bed hydrated, because you're going to lose about 2 pounds of fluid when you sleep at night. So if you're dehydrated before you go to bed, 76% of athletes show up to a morning practice or competition or school 1% dehydrated already, and 66% show up 1% dehydrated the rest of the time. So what they eat up to that point is the biggest impact, because you want to go to bed. When it comes to a big swim meet, I want that at least 90%. Most swimmers who've never seen me before, a lot of them, especially if they're on the lower end of the weight chart, they're usually under 30%, 30. That's not good. They'll be tired. They're not going to maximize. And if they're rocking it, then I'm like, wow, they will even rock it more. The ones that eat plenty, or just their body is a little bit of a different type, the quality makes a difference. If you're just eating calories, you're not going to get all the fuel in the muscle. If it's a lot of added sugar and a lot of saturated fat, it just doesn't work that way. But it's still better to eat something than nothing at all. So then when you have lunch, and lunch really can be what I said. It could be a sandwich, which is common. It could be a 6-inch sub with a fruit smoothie and some carrot sticks and hummus. And then the hardest part is the afternoon. So the morning isn't usually the hard part. It's the afternoon. Now, if they go right back into it and it's 1 or 2 in the afternoon, then they can nibble and sip. And that could be, it could be literally a tablespoon of peanut butter, a banana, and some cheese sticks. It could be Triscuits with cheese sticks and some raisins. It could be a Cliff, if you want to go with a product, a Cliff energy bar. It could be a Cliff Builder bar, because this added sugar isn't, it's not, the body, you know, needs a little bit of protein. Builder bars have 20 grams, but it's powder, right? And so, or a lot of kids will do really well with yogurt. So they could do the Oikos or Chobani with, you know, peanut butter sandwich, an almond butter sandwich, a sunflower seed butter sandwich with honey, tortilla, those types of things. Those are swim meets. Now, if they have a swim meet and it doesn't start till 4 or 5, that's so uncomfortable, because they should be eating dinner around 6. So I always challenge people that you probably want to try to have a dinner around 3 if you can, and then it's snack. But if you really struggle with that concept, then you need a, like you do, then you have snack, and then a meal at the end. But I do not like large meals at 10 o'clock at night when you have to turn around and get up in the next morning to swim again, if that's how it's structured. Because it's just not the best situation. It's better to eat that meal earlier and then snack. But it's not always perfect like that. But other quick snacks, I mean, really, I love Cheerios. I'm not joking. People forget, you just put Cheerios with dried fruit and some nuts, and you could do Chex, you could do cornflakes, you could do Raisin Bran. It's just really easy to eat. You could do a Kashi Go Lean Crunch, and they just eat it that way, and that works well. You could do pasta salad. I know it sounds weird, but pasta salad travels well. It's cold, and you could put the Italian, you could put the Caesar, you could put the Mediterranean, and then you could put little vegetables in there. That's a preference. It's my preference. And then you could put some lean ham or lean chicken in that, and that just travels and it's light. You could do soups. That way, if you have a container like Yeti or Hydra Flask, you'd warm it up and then just leave it in there, and they can have soup. Soup works really well. Put extra egg noodles in it or extra rice. And you can buy pasta that's already cooked. You can already buy rice that's already cooked. So you could put more of, like, in a Progresso soup. Just if you're, you know, traveling, you just pop the lid and just warm it up, and then you can just put the extra rice in there, and maybe rotisserie chicken. I've done a thing called the 20-minute rotisserie chicken in the microwave, and it actually is insanely great, by Epicure. You just need the silicone container to do that. Okay. It's hard for my son sometimes to get those quick snacks, like the bars, as he's allergic to all nuts. So all I would ask you is, nuts, they're not usually allergic to seeds. So you could do sunflower seeds, you could do flax, you can do chia. Now, flax and chia and hemp are not going to be the greatest, right? You're not going to sit and nibble on those. They look like sesame seeds. But don't forget about the oils. You know how you can take bread and you dip it in the oil or the pesto? Oh my gosh, if I could get away eating that, they could get 2 tablespoons of oil in that bread, and that's going to be really good. So you can really get a lot from chia, flax, and the Spaniards in Spain, they take a toasted bread and they put the olive oil on the bread, and then they take fresh tomato, and I don't know exactly what they do, but it's no different than taking a breadstick and just running in the marinara sauce and eating it. But you could put ham, and just don't forget to put the olive oil on the bread that's toasted. Another butter that's healthier, in my opinion, because it's the Land O'Lakes olive oil sea salt butter, and that's soft butter, and it's cream, sea salt, olive oil. That's it. And so it has way less of the saturated fat and a way healthier fat. So you can put that on there, and that's how you can get some extra fat that way. And that's going to help get those things in. And hummus has the oil in it. So that could work that way. But don't forget, now, once in a while, you're going to struggle with that. So maybe you do go more with heavy cream or coconut milk in a smoothie. And I'd rather you get saturated fat from its whole source, not a Twinkie, not Little Debbie's, not, baked goods that you buy prepackaged. I'd rather you get the heavy whipping cream and that you use that for your fat if you need to, and that will help with that as well if you struggle, because sometimes we just have to do that. If son is swimming twice a day, 1 hour AM, and then again 4 to 6:30, should he eat a post snack and then eat dinner 30 minutes later, or just hold on the post snack since dinner is only 30 minutes later? All right, great question. You really don't need the post snack because the meal will count. And so as long as it comprises of at least 20 grams of protein, 20 grams of protein is 3 ounces. 3 ounces the size of a deck of cards. Even if they're young, they'll eat 3 ounces. But if you're a vegan, please understand nuts, seeds, and peanut butter are not great protein sources. They are not. They're not high in leucine. And you really, really need to work with somebody to make sure that they're getting enough leucine every 3 to 4 hours if they're vegan, because most people who do not when they're younger, because I do body compositions at my office, most Asians and most Indian people who do not do a lot of meat, they usually have low lean weight. So you usually don't get enough of the leucine. So we just have to make sure you're getting that. I'm cool if people want to go vegan, but nuts, seeds, and peanut butter are not great protein sources. They're great healthy fat sources. So hopefully that answers your questions. Any other questions that you may have? I think I answered what you had put there. You're very welcome. I appreciate you coming tonight, you guys. It's past 9 o'clock, and believe it or not, I have a phone consult that I need to get to from somebody in Utah. So I got to get to my next client. You guys, thank you. I really appreciate your time today. I wish you a great and healthy holiday training session, and I wish you a great and healthy swimming season for short course and long course and all your goals out there, and just our kids to grow and be optimal in academics and just get to their goals and dreams. You guys have a great and healthy day.